Hey everyone, it's Lynnea here for Miss Ink Stamps, and today I am bringing you a sneak peek of the new release that's coming this Saturday, the 27th of November, for the holiday weekend. So I will be peeking the Ice Day stamp set. Let's go ahead and get started with my background. I'm using the Frosty Flakes stencil. This is a previously released stencil, but a great one for the winter. I've sprayed the back of it with pixie spray. You could definitely use tape here, but since I'm a heavy ink blender, I tend to reach for my pixie spray. I'm going to use a trio of ink colors to create a rainbow snowflake background. So I'm using mustard seed, and I just kind of splotched on 3 areas in a visual triangle, and then I'm coming in with picked raspberry, again with that triangle, and then I will fill in any open areas with Mermaid Lagoon. And where these colors overlap, I'm going to get my middle colors of the orange, the green, and the purple. I'll set that background to the side, and now I'm going to do some coloring. So here is my little sneak peek of the Ice Day stamp set. This stamp set has a bunch of adorable little penguins in different sizes. There's a big iceberg, there's hats, there's other little accessories for the penguins, and I'm going to create a winter slider card. So not necessarily a holiday theme, but I did put some little Santa hats on these guys to make it more festive. I'm going in with some cool grays. I like to color penguins either with cool grays, with purples, or even with blues for a little bit of color. But since I have so much color in my background, I'm just going to use the cool grays, and that way it'll kind of keep these guys a little more neutral so nothing clashes with the background. Here's those little Santa hats I was talking about. There's a third hat in the Ice Day stamp set as well, but I didn't end up using that. I stamped 2 of the Santa hats with the little puff going to the left and then 1 with the puff going to the right. I'm coloring these in with some red Copic markers, and then here's this big, huge iceberg. You're going to see when I put this on my card how big this is, and you can use part of it. You can stamp or die cut something or hand draw something to create like a lake below the iceberg. I decided to just kind of have this iceberg free floating on my card, but you can definitely add a border die or something to cover up the bottom if you want. So here are all of my pieces, and here's where you can see just how big that iceberg is. I absolutely love it. I'm laying out how I want my little mini scene to go. I am not good at scene building, so I usually stick to smaller mini scenes and focus on the background. So I love this bright and pretty background, but I wanted to kind of dress up this little scene a little bit and create a slider card, because when I saw this little penguin on his tummy, I just envisioned him sliding down this iceberg. So I have a die set that will allow me to create a little slider channel, and I had these 2 straight dies, and one was just a little bit too big, and the other one was probably like half as big as I needed it to be. So I'm going to show you how I stretched this out. I'm using my iceberg image from the Ice Day stamp set, and I have that positioned on my card where I want it to be. And I lined up my die. I'm going to die cut that out. And so now I have this little slider section here. But the slider channel is only as big as where the penguin is going to slide, or the penguin is only going to slide for as big as the channel is. And so I wanted this channel extended a little more. So I'm just going to line up this die once again and run this back through my die cutting machine. And now I'm going to get a slider channel that is a little bit shorter than that big long die. You can see here there's a little bit shorter, but it is about 1.5 as big as my smaller slider channel. Just the perfect size. I want to inlay my die cut pieces into my background so that it looks like one continuous background as the penguin is moving around in that slider channel. So I have lined up my card front, my panel, onto a card base, and I added some adhesive through that slider channel, and I'm just going to pop these pieces in so that they are adhered onto my card base itself. Now I'm going to start building my scene and figuring out where I want to put my penguin. I have a little disc here, a little slider disc, to add some weight to my penguin. Traditionally, a lot of times people use a coin, like a penny or a dime if you're using US currency, but my penguin body and head were just a teeny bit too small. If I had cut my border a little bit wider around my penguin, a dime would have fit perfectly behind his head, but I like to cut a smaller border, so that's why I went with this little slider disc, and you don't have to use one of these, just the foam square would be perfect. Here is a tip when you are creating any kind of moving mechanism card. You want to use your anti-static powder tool to reduce the friction of the paper on paper. I have also added that little slider disc to the back of my penguin's head, and then I have a square foam piece on top of that slider disc. You could do a circle, but I didn't want my penguin to really spin. I just wanted him to slide. So you want something that's going to butt up against the edge of that channel. I added some powder tool along the sides of that foam as well to make sure that there's no stickiness that's going to try to adhere onto my cardstock. Now I need to pop up my slider panel onto my card base. You want to make sure that this is raised enough that there is going to be free movement of that slider disc. And I like to add foam around my slider channel, but you want to make sure that nothing's going to interfere with that moving mechanism. I use some double thick foam tape. This is 1/8 of an inch, and I will link what I used below in the video description. This is what I really like to use for interactive cards because it's double thick, and so you don't have to worry about folding your tape over onto itself. That tape in and of itself is thick enough. I made sure that when I put my front panel onto my card, I lined it up with those negative pieces of the slider channel that I had already cut. So now you can see where it looks like that has that inlaid look. So as the penguin slides around, you still see one continuous background pattern rather than the white of the card. I'm lining up where I want my iceberg to go, and I'm adding that flat onto the card front with liquid adhesive. I want to make sure that my penguin is able to freely slide over the top of that, so I don't want to pop that up at all. I added that little Santa hat onto my penguin, and now I'm figuring out where I want my other two penguins, because I have one kind of sitting at the top of the iceberg waiting his turn to slide down, and I have one at the bottom who has already slid down the iceberg. I did pop those guys up with foam, and I added Santa hats to them. And now I stamped and cut out a sentiment that just says, "Have an ice day," and I'm going to decide if I want to put that in the middle of my iceberg or at the bottom. I decided to put it at the bottom so that it has kind of a finished edge at the bottom of the iceberg. So I'll pop that up with foam, and this is going to finish my card. I absolutely love this Ice Day stamp set. Remember that this will be released this Small Business Saturday, so November 27th, just a couple of days away. I hope that you all have a great holiday. If you're in the US, if you're celebrating Thanksgiving, I hope that you have a great holiday. There are going to be some sales coming from Miss Ink Stamps for the holiday and for the weekend, so keep your eye on the Miss Ink Stamps social media channels. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!